For everyone born, a place at the table. For everyone born, clean water and bread. A shelter, a place, a safe place for growing. For everyone born, a star overhead. And God will delight when we are creators of justice and joy. Yes, God will delight when we are creators of justice and joy. For woman and man, a place at the table, revising the roles, deciding the share, with wisdom and grace, dividing the power. For woman and man, a system that's fair, and God will delight when we are creators of justice and joy. Yes, God will delight when we are creators of justice and joy. For young and for old, a place at the table, a voice to be heard, a part in the song. The hands of a child in hands that are wrinkled. For young and for old, the right to belong. And God will delight when we are creators of justice and joy. Yes, God will delight when we are creators of justice and joy. For just and unjust, a place at the table, abuser abused, with me to forgive. In anger, in heart, a mindset of mercy. For just and unjust, a new way to live. And God will delight when we are creators of justice and joy. Yes, God will delight when we are creators of justice and joy. For everyone born, a place at the table, to live without fear and simply to be, to work, to speak out, to witness a worship. For everyone born, the right to be free.
morning, everyone. Good morning. Good morning on this stunning Sunday here in Dunedin, Florida. Finally, right? One of the three, as we always say. Hey, will you join me to open up this service with our call to worship? Something awakened us this morning, perhaps the day's dawning, the smell of brewing coffee or tea, the sounds of an alarm on the shelf, or maybe a newspaper hitting the door.
And now we gather with awakened spirits in gratitude for the Creator of this day.
Something moved us this morning. We left behind a sufficiency of sleep or a restless night, even with our extra hour. We got dressed and ate breakfast. We left our homes in body or in spirit, if you're online, to be here.
And now we gather together and in spirit to follow the Christ who moves among us and to follow the Spirit which leads us in deeds of love.
May ours be a faith that is both awake and moving, open to the experience of wonder and awe that are exploding around us in every moment.
And may God gather us in gently and send us back into the world rejuvenated, excited, and spiritually alive.
I wonder if you'll join me in rising up in body or spirit, and we're going to sing a beautiful hymn to open our service. Let us break bread together, because we are going, for the first time in 16 months, at the end of this service, if you so choose, are going to be joining one another for communion again. So let's say, rise up in body or spirit. And if you're online with us at home, that is your warning to go grab your chocolate muffins and your coffee. Whatever it is you want to use for communion, please join us after the service. Let us join together. Let us break bread together. Let us break bread together. Song, full African American spiritual that was actually contains coded language in it. When it says "my face to the rising sun," it means something's going to be happening at the rising sun, at dawn. I'm serious. It's a really beautiful, beautiful hymn of African American spirituals. So thanks for singing it with me. I thought it was just gorgeous. Welcome, everyone, to Faith United Church of Christ on this beautiful Sunday morning. As I already said, in Dunedin, Florida. Welcome if you're online with you. If you are online, I hope it's as beautiful wherever you are as it is right here, because we get to enjoy these days. A special welcome to any visitors we have with us, first-time visitors, return visitors, whether in person or online. We are delighted to have you here. If you're online, go ahead and send a note to our email inbox at office@faithucc.org, and we'll get you on our newsletter list, keep you apprised of the many that we have here. And if you are here in person, we have a friendship book on the table in the gathering space that you can sign, and we'll get you on that same newsletter list and keep you in the loop of all the stuff going on. Look at this announcement list. We're back. I think we're getting there, right? Feel like we're getting there? How many of you were here on Friday night? How many of you were here on Friday night? Oh, nice crowd. Annie DeShant. I have to ask her which way it is because I said it both when I introduced her. We'll call her Annie DeShant. She rocked this stage right here with her guitarist Chuck. It was a great concert. If you missed it this time, she's promising to come back maybe next year around the same time. So she may be too big for us by then. We may have to go to Ruth Eckerd Hall to see her. But hopefully she'll always remember us here, and this may be one of her favorite stages next to the Grand Ole Opry or something like that. So Annie, if you're watching, this is our Grand Ole Opry stage, so you got to come back. Great show. Communion returns today. We're going to do it a little different. Some of you really want communion back. Others like, So we're going to do the... I don't mean that in a negative way. I just mean you're kind of like, I'm good, you know. We all enter this stuff in our own way, my friends, and I happen to love communion, so I'm glad we're bringing it back. It's going to be at the end of the service. We're going to do our litany at the end. Then we're going to sing our song for peace, and then Carolyn's going to play some soft music, and anybody that would like communion, you can come forward. We have bread in cups, so you can just take a cup, and we have gluten-free on this side, and that smaller one, and then we have, it's a full menu here. Then we have an array of wines for you. Merlot on one side, Cabernet on the other, Pinot Noir on another side. So, hey, we do communion right here. So we'll give this a shot today and see how this goes at the end of the service. Eventually we'll reincorporate it back into the heart of the worship service, but at least we're doing it today. COVID masking update. We, your leadership team, we've been soliciting your feedback. We've been watching the numbers just plummet from this Delta variant. So we made a decision based on all of those variables that starting next week, if you're vaccinated, please feel free to wear a mask if you would like to. We're not strongly recommending it like we were before. If you're not vaccinated, we really strongly recommend that you continue to wear a mask. And if you're booster shot, well, you're golden, you're good. So you're in the elite club now, elite club plus. But, you know, we got to this before, we unmasked and we felt great and things were going great here. We didn't have any issues, but then Delta came roaring back, so we had to go back to the mask, but we never had to shut down again. And that is a testament to, I think, how we've been doing things here. So I'm proud of how we've handled this. And I think next week we're just kind of ready to, those that are comfortable being in this space who are vaccinated. Dunedin Cares. My God, people. The number keeps going up. It was 312, and then it was 326. It's now 332 pounds of food and money. Just last week. I mean, that's just 1 week. So we have sent over 1,300 pounds of food in the last just couple of weeks, and $1,000, over $1,000 in cash. So, and at $1 equals 1 pound. So think about what you're all doing to help give people a really nice gift of Thanksgiving this year by filling those shelves. So thank you, everyone. Let's just keep it going. The drive ends, I think, on the 15th, is it? My Dunedin Care, folks? 15th. So we got some more time. So bring in that food, drop off those checks, mark them for Dunedin Cares, and we'll get them over there for them to stock those shelves. Special announcement for Jan Ryan about an Annam Cara tea.
Good morning. Good morning. You're Annam Cara. Thank you. That is beautiful. Your Annam Cara Women's Circle is inviting all faith women, visitors, members, women of faith, to our 3rd annual Beer Guest Tea. It will be held next Saturday, November 13th, in the Butterfly Garden at 3 p.m. We care about you, and we will be moving inside to eat, so we are asking that everybody attends be vaccinated. Hats, however, are optional. We are so happy. Also, we're going to have entertainment, a songstress, Kathleen Fury, who is wonderful, and she's going to be there to sing for us. So please sign up in the gathering space to reserve your spot of tea. And please do let us know if you need a ride. Thank you.
Nice hat.
It's Margaret. Hey, there you go.
I thought for a second you said beer guest, and I'm thinking, oh, this is a different tea than I thought it was. Poinsettias, thank you. That's going to be a great event. So talk to Jana, Leslie, if you have, and Marge, if you have any questions on the tea. And Esther, thank you. Poinsettias, today is the final day for poinsettias. If you're online with us, you can still get one. Just send an email in today, or call me or something like that, and I'll fill out a form for you. If you're here and you'd like to donate a poinsettia in honor of or a memory of a loved one, we have poinsettia sign-up forms on the back, and they're $11 a piece, and they'll just help. This space is going to look so beautiful this year with all the color up here that we're going to get, because I think we've already sold 25 or something like that. So, but there's plenty more. So go ahead and sign up on the back table, and you can leave a check. There's an envelope there for a check or cash. Just make sure if you do pay, click the box. If you don't have it today, you can go ahead and just send it in. At least we'll know to order one for you. Thank you. Parent meeting. We got to start thinking about, now that we're starting to come back, what do we want for our youth and our kids? They're important to us. Their spiritual development is important to us, and we've kind of been on a lull, but now that the vaccines are rolling out for 5 to 11-year-olds, which is great, we got to start thinking about some programming for the new year. So I'm going to hold a parents meeting next Sunday here. For those of you that are here, it'll be right after the service. And then I'm going to hold another one on Zoom for anyone that's not here and would like to come in on Zoom. I think that's a Tuesday night, November 16th at 7 p.m. I want to just hear your ideas. I want to hear your hopes and dreams for your kids or your grandkids if they come here, because we want to build this into a really powerful kids program. So I'm glad we can finally start getting enjoys real quick. Leslie's sister Barbara. She's in the hospital, and so we hold your sister Barbara in our hearts and prayers. I hope she's going to be okay, and give her our best. Okay. Also continue to hold Mudge Murphy. Mudge fell and broke her hip. Had surgery. Was going to go to rehab right away, but now it sounds like it's going to be going home to do some home rehab. So Mudge and Whitney, if you're on with us right now, just know we're thinking about you in these difficult days. Lean on us as you need to, and we'll just keep our prayers coming for Mudge, a great lady, and for you, Whitney, as well, as you support her. So lean on us as you need to. Also continue to hold Dawn Jablonski in your hearts and prayers. Dawn might be on with us now, but she's in a program over at Winter Park now. She's been going through a really hard time. She was hospitalized for many weeks, but her dad seems to think there's some light at the end of the tunnel. She loves hearing from her dad as we pass on news that we're thinking about her. I'm going to try and get her address if I can, so we can send some cards and things like that. So just for now, just hold on in your hearts and prayers. I know she would love to be here with us. And we can't wait till she's back. Also hold Marge Miller's friend, Elkie Paschke, in heart and prayer, someone that has been here to the church actually many times, and Elkie was hospitalized last week and is now home recovering, but still has some issues that need attention. So please hold those folks in your hearts and prayers. I have a personal joy I want to share. My little one, my daughter, my firstborn, turned 17 years old on Friday. 17? Oh my God, 17, wow. Of course, she's not online with us because she's sleeping, so happy birthday. Happy birthday to Fiona. Did I put an offertory invite? No, I didn't. We'll keep that up. Yeah, we'll keep that for now. We're going to have a moment of stewardship reflection from Fran Mitchell, who's our former treasurer. She's going to offer us some words of inspiration. But before she does, I just want to say thank you for all your giving. This is kind of our offertory invite for the day. If you do want to make a love offering, kind of like we used to pass the plates are on the back tables, and you can leave us a love offering, leave your church a love offering there. You can also go online and go to Vanco or PayPal on our website and donate that way. Fran, before you come up, I've got to set the tone for you. A couple of jokes here. So after the service one morning, a little boy told the pastor, "When I grow up, I'm going to give you some money." "Well, thank you," the pastor replied, "but why?" The boy answered, "Because my dad says you're one of the poorest preachers we've ever had." One more. One beautiful Sunday morning, a pastor announced to his congregation, "I'm going to do this. My good people, I have here in my hand 3 sermons. A $1,000 sermon that lasts 3 minutes, a $500 sermon that lasts 15 minutes, and a $100 sermon that lasts a full hour. Which one would you like to choose?" And we'll do the collection. $1,000 gets you the 3 minutes. Fran, I give you the pulpit. I'm going to sit down.
That's a hard act to follow. Good morning, everybody. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Fran Mitchell, and as Mike says, I have the privilege of being the moderator of this congregation, and I'm also married to Ivan Liss. Raise your hand. I know you love to be recognized. Today I want to talk about stewardship from 2 different perspectives. One, my personal perspective, and then from the point of view of the leadership team. First, Ivan and I retired in 2006, and we started snowbirding in January of that year. Unlike Michelle last week, who described herself as a boo Jew, we were recovering Presbyterians. For our first couple of years, we tried a different denomination in Tampa. We went for 2 years, and outside the minister and his wife, virtually nobody made any attempt to get to know us or invite us to do anything in that church. After a while, we switched to a different congregation, this one in St. Pete, and had pretty much the same experience. The Sunday messages were basically motivational talks, and seldom, if ever, was the word Jesus mentioned. Finally, in frustration, I Googled liberal Christian churches, never having heard the word progressive described a church, and UCC popped up. So we tried one. It was on the beach in St. Pete, and it turned out that if you weren't a member, you had to pay for parking. We didn't get a good feeling there. So then we went to the next one, and we arrived late because they had missed the time of their services on their website. And as we walked in, they were reciting the Apostles' Creed, which was one of the very reasons why we were no longer Presbyterians. When we arrived, so then we finally, in frustration, decided to try one more, and it was Faith UCC, then located on Drew Street. When we arrived, we were greeted warmly by Carol Kriebel, back there. She was the Marge Brown of that era. Frank Glenn was in the front of the church collecting beans and rice for the migrant workers in Waimama. I took a deep breath, took in the spirit, and knew we were home. I loved what I came to recognize as a progressive message. Here was a church that was involved in the world outside its walls. Here was a church that encouraged study. Here was a church that it was okay to say you didn't believe in the virgin birth or the physical resurrection, but you still wanted to. Here was a church that you didn't have to check your brain at the door. So we immediately began to support this church financially, and when we joined 10 years ago this December, we pledged. I give to Faith because it gives back to me so much more than the financial gifts I give to it. I love our weekly services, our messages, our music, our fellowship. Life is Life supports me when my depression rears its ugly head. Books and meditation has challenged me to develop a spiritual side. Spiritual study gives us the opportunity to study and grow through the discussion of books and video courses. We're a bawdy group, high-spirited folks who love to talk and exchange ideas. I love our church, our fellowship opportunities, our social justice mission, the way we support those who are suffering in our congregation, and the many opportunities we have to get involved. I love that we not only talk about Jesus, we actually do his work. As our involvement with faith increased, so has our giving. This place quite literally feeds my body and soul, and it's why I've included a gift to Faith in my will, and why our yearly pledge has continued to increase every year. So to switch gears, I want to talk to you a little bit about why pledging is important to the leadership team. As a church, our hope is, and our expectation, is that all members will do 3 things. 1, come to worship as you're able on a regular basis. 2, be involved in some activity outside of Sunday mornings. And 3, support us financially as you are able. We're now working on the 2022 budget, which you'll see in a couple weeks at our congregational meeting. Like any institution, to budget accurately, we need to estimate our expenses and then raise the money to meet them. Pledges are the best indication of what our income is going to be. Membership here, to me, is like membership in any organization to which you belong, like a country club or a gym or Weight Watchers. You pay a monthly fee, and in return, you get a product or service that adds value to your life. For many years, we've had to balance our budget by taking monthly money from our investment account, and for years, it was $3,800 a month. Our investment account has basically been reduced to half of what it was when it was established 10 years ago. But during COVID, a wonderful thing happened. Expenses decreased, basically because we couldn't be in the building for 9.5 months, but at the same time, our membership grew, and so did our giving. We were able to keep many of our programs going via Zoom. Our investment account grew. We had so much extra money, in fact, that we started giving a $500 benevolence gift to various nonprofits in the community to help support their efforts with those who are not as fortunate as we are. We always seek to be good stewards of our money. Our budget this year is $201,000 for absolutely everything that we do. It will increase next year because the cost of everything is going to increase next year. And just to give you some estimates, $4,800 to mow the lawn, $10,000 for utilities, $13,000 for our property insurance, $19,000 the combined salaries of our part-time office manager and custodian, and $19,000 for the combined salaries of our music staff. And we get Casey and Michael for free. They volunteer. As it stands today, given both our estimated budget and the pledges that have come in so far, it looks like we're going to have a $26,000 deficit next year, which is about $2,000 a month. We don't want to go back to withdrawing funds from our investment account. We don't want to cut back the $500 a month we're giving to others. We want to continue supporting our core groups like Anam Cara, Racial Justice, Journeys, The Magic of Music, Hospitality, Safety, Interfaith Dialogues, all of which do so much to enhance this congregation. We want our property to look nice and our building to be heated and air conditioned. We want to continue to spread the message of love and inclusion to a world so bitterly divided. And we dearly love to give our pastor a raise. He didn't know I was going to say that. Mike has kept us growing and going during this pandemic. And do you know that he only gets one day off a week? We really want to support him financially. But in order to do all of these things, each of us needs to step up and support Faith UCC financially as we are able. Pledging a realistic amount to the work of this church is crucial to us continuing to grow and be a beacon in this community. You may only be able to afford $1 a week. Maybe you can give us $100 a week. It doesn't matter. What matters is that we ask you to pledge. Here's a question that might seem crass to you, but to me it's vital. Thinking in financial terms only, what does this congregation mean to you? And then, as the leadership team suggests, I ask you to attend services often, to pick at least one activity, contact the person who's in charge of it, and get involved. And consider what this place is worth to you financially. And then, as much as possible, make it happen. Because I know, deep in my heart, that this church feeds your body and soul just as it does mine. Thank you.
Thank you, Fran. That was wonderful. Thank you. Speaking so honestly from your heart about what this place means to you. Thank you. I hope you will all take a moment today, especially in this month of gratitude, and just think, what does this place mean to me? What would my life look like without it? I can't even imagine. Oh, wow. I don't want to imagine that. Oh, so take a moment and ponder that, and then if you can make a pledge this year. This is the year to get everybody pledging, even like I said, if it's $1 or $1 million. Let's say you won the Powerball. Pledge big, but it doesn't matter because that just means we're all committed in this together, just like Fran said. So So thank you to all of you that have offered stewardship testimonials in the last couple of weeks. Thank you, thank you, thank you. My friends, let's just have a moment of centering ourselves here. Oh, I put another screen up here. Oh, it was a giving screen. There was one. Who knew? The poppies. Veterans Day this week, isn't it? That's right. All their veterans, we say thank you and for your service and your sacrifice. And I invite you just to close your eyes for a moment and take a few breaths. Don't let COVID tell us we can't breathe. And center ourselves in our breath, which gives us life. Pray these words by John Philip Newell, whom you all know I love so much. Light within all light, soul behind all souls. At the breaking of dawn, at the coming of day, we wait and watch. Your light within the morning light, your soul within the human soul. Your presence beckoning to us from the heart of life. In the dawning of this day, let us know fresh shinings in our soul, and the growing colors of new beginning all around us. Let us know the first lights of your heart. Great star of the morning, inner flame of the universe, let us be a color in this new dawning. Amen. Let us be ever gently more in worship together.
Our scripture reading today comes from Matthew 15, verses 33 through 39. Close your eyes and imagine you are there on this day in this crowd. You are tired, you are hungry, you are hurting. Hear the story of how Jesus responds to you. Then Jesus called his disciples to him and said, I have compassion for the crowd because they have been with me now for 3 days and have nothing to eat. And I do not want to send them away hungry, for they might faint on the way. The disciples said to him, Where are we to get enough bread in the desert to feed so great a crowd? Jesus asked them, How many loaves have you? They said, 7 small fish. Then, ordering the crowd to sit down on the ground, he took the 7 loaves and the fish, and after giving thanks, he broke them and gave them to the disciples, and the disciples gave them to the crowds. And all of them ate and were filled, and they took up the broken pieces left over, 7 baskets full. Those who had eaten were 4,000 men, besides women and children. After sending away the crowds, he got into the boat and went to the region of Magadan. In these words, the heart of Jesus shines forth.
Thank you, Linda. So I'm starting kind of a 3-week theme today on what I am calling stories of goodness, or better maybe said, stories of people that are doing really good things that just make us feel good and actually give us some hope about our world. Well, this is November, after all, the month that we are called to seek out the good things that we can be grateful for as part of Thanksgiving. So it's a perfect month to lift our minds and hearts off of all of the negativity, the divisiveness, and the fear that seems to always find us when we get that clicker, right? Turn on the news or go to social media. In fact, this might just be a good month to do that just a little bit less. Maybe less cable punditry, less Twitter, less Facebook, or what are they calling it now, Meta? I know for me, I'm giving up Fox News for this whole month. All right, Willard. It's my go-to, you know, so I'm cutting it off this month. So I encourage you to take that challenge. Not to tune out completely, because there are forces that do want you to do just that. Forces that don't want you to do things like pay attention to like the Ahmaud Arbery case, right? Or things like that. They'd rather have you tune away. So we can't tune out completely, but we can definitely shift our focus a bit to what I'm calling the good that's all around us and just waiting for us to take notice. And lucky for us, there's a lot of it out there. You know that? There's a lot of it out there, even though it can be hard to see. So today I want to tell you about a world-famous chef. I alluded in a sermon last year just to him briefly, but I'd like to delve into his story a little bit more, because to me it's just so inspiring and so good. And I love preaching about chefs. The chef is named, does anyone know his name? Jose Andres, right? And he is literally feeding the world. His story next week. Oh, I'm excited. I've never been so excited a week in advance. Usually I don't think of my sermons until like Friday. I actually planned for this one, people. At least 1 week. So next week, I can't wait to tell you about a story about some folks who are building homes. Now, you might think, well, that's not, people build homes all the time, right? Well, these folks aren't just building homes. You know what they're doing? They're 3D printing homes for the poorest people in the world. These forward-thinking, creative, and passionate folks are right now, this very moment, and I'll tell you more next week. Don't go jumping ahead and read the stories, all right? They're creating the first ever 3D printed community in Mexico. Let me repeat that, a 3D printed community. I can't even get our copy machine to work in back. I'll try to print 10 copies of the poinsettia thing and it won't work. They're 3D printing homes in Mexico. 50 homes for 50 families that were previously living in just appalling and flooded conditions. It's a game changer for the world. I'll share that with you next week. The third week, the week before Thanksgiving, well, I'm not sure what story I'm going to be telling you, but trust me, have faith in me, it's going to be a good one. So I hope you find some inspiration in this short series. But more than that, I hope you can come away with the belief that the world is not all burning down around us. There is good stuff happening. We just need to seek those things out and let them lift our spirits. Our scripture text today that Linda just read for us is surely one of good news. At least the part that we heard. The bad news is implied as we hear there are thousands of hungry women and children and men, and how they've had nothing to eat for 3 days, which would likely not have been uncommon for the poorest of the poor in that time. But the good news is Jesus has compassion here. He sees it, and he says he does not want them to leave in search of food, and he uses the word faint. I think faint is a soft term here. I think for what he really probably witnessed is what he didn't want them to die on their way to try and find some food. Because surely that kind of poverty was all too real and raw for this gathered community. For one thing, we know life for a first century Middle Eastern peasant with no work was extremely cruel, especially to the widows. So it's no doubt why food, dining, and feeding stories and parables are so prevalent in the scriptures, and Jesus tells them a lot. Now, inevitably with a passage like this, I know the question always comes first to, did it really happen, right? That always enters the picture. Did Jesus really take 7 loaves of bread and a few small fish and multiply these things in some miracle fashion and feed the thousands that were desperate who were following them, and giving them all so much food that we're told they had their fill, and that there were even some leftovers? Some will say absolutely, he did this, it's a miracle, full stop. That's it, don't question it, he did it. It's the way it went down. Others will say that happened, but it was more of like a stone soup kind of thing. You know that story of stone soup? People had some food on them, and they all collected it and came together, and in turn, when they did that, there was enough to sustain the whole crowd, and all were fed. That seems to me a little far-fetched. Who's carrying around bread in their pockets and fish? Who's carrying around fish in their pockets? Wait, did they even have pockets? No, they didn't even have pockets. I wonder when the pocket was invented. That is a real question we need to figure out. So who's carrying around fish? Maybe in a basket or something, but that just seems far-fetched. Still others with more progressively theological views, they want so badly, I fall into this camp sometimes, to believe that this is true and then jump through all sorts of interpretive hoops and over interpretive hurdles to reach a point where I can believe that the story is told as it was because, God dang it, this is the Jesus that I want. Others say it's just a recreation of the Moses story and the manna story from Exodus. And finally, we have scholars who say, no, this never happened. Take that stuffy Jesus seminar, those group of scholars. I love them, really. They said this: the words and deeds attributed to Jesus in the story, the feeding of the crowd, all belong to the narrative texture of the story. They cannot be classified as aphorisms or parables, and so could not have circulated independently during the oral period 30 to 50 CE, after Jesus died. As a consequence, they cannot be traced back to Jesus, but must have been created by the storyteller. Boring scholars, come on. Live a little. For us today, though, we're not going to address, that's not our thing today. We're not going to address any of those beliefs about the stories, because what really matters for our story of goodness that we're going to delve in today is that there were really crowds like that back then in Jesus' day and age. And there are still crowds like that today in our own day and age. So is the story of a man of compassion feeding crowds of devastated and hungry people true? Yes, it was then, and it still is today. So in my mind and in my reasoning, the story is very, very much true, and more than that, it's very, very much alive. And we see it unfolding around us over and over again. And that's where the goodness comes in. Now, I've mentioned the chef and his organization, World Central Kitchen, to you just briefly before, but again, I wanted to dive more into his life, and this series on goodness seems to be the perfect place to do so, because in my mind, when it comes to the idea of seeking out goodness, there's no better place than to start with that man, Chef Andres, in the World Central Kitchen that is feeding the down and out in multitudes all over the world. And for them and their vision and their courage, they're not just feeding 4,000 to 5,000. They're feeding millions. Think about that. Millions and millions, tens of millions. Now, the story of World Central Kitchen, this is what I didn't tell you before, has to begin through the life and experiences of Jose Andres, who was born in 1969 in northern Spain and immigrated to the United States with $50 in his pocket in 1991. He's a trained chef that was beginning to kind of have some clout around him, and he was hired to work in some pretty nice restaurants, first in New York, where he landed upon leaving Spain, and then eventually finding his way to Washington, D.C., where he would go on to become quite successful in working in and creating some of the best restaurants in the country. He elevated Spanish cuisine to new heights and became a rising star in the food world, eventually winning his first ever James Beard Award, becoming the best chef in the country in 2011. Surely more success was going to follow, and this chef was about to burst and live a grand life among the rich and famous, right? Living a sort of celebrity, socialite, elite kind of lifestyle. So many chefs do that. He could have made that choice. Except somewhere along the line, his eyes were opened. And in his own words, he said, quote, "What good does it do me if I have the best restaurant in the world, and 3 blocks down the road, I've got hundreds of people who don't have anything to eat?" How many chefs say that? Not many. And with that concern for the hungry people around him, his life was about to change forever. And feeding the hungry, not necessarily the rich and famous, became his primary focus of his life and of his very being. In 2010, Andres traveled to Haiti following that devastating earthquake, the same one that our own Be Like Brit story found its own beginning in. He traveled there with a new UN organization called the Global Alliance for Clean Cook Stoves, and geared toward improving the cooking conditions in some of the poorest countries in the world. And while there, in his own words, quote, he saw the grinding poverty they live with day to day had been exacerbated by dirty cooking conditions in overcrowded and unsafe tent cities. He fell in love with the people, the country, and in the end he decided, I need to do more. I can't just cater to rich and famous people. I need to do more. With that, World Central Kitchen was formed with one simple mission. This is it. Feed the hungry and give water to the thirsty. Feed the hungry and give water to the thirsty. Sounds like someone else I know. That's it. I mean, more would come later for them, but that was the primary drive. Feed the crowds. Find the crowds, feed the crowds, wherever they are. And oh, how they have. I mean, Jesus, we are told, fed the multitudes of thousands that day on that Middle Eastern hillside. World Central Kitchen, through his leadership, through the leadership of this larger-than-life, compassionate chef, traveled the world into the worst of times, in the most devastating places, the most dangerous conditions, to bring food and water and love and compassion, and gave people a sense of dignity. Now, they have set up massive kitchens in countries all over the place: Dominican Republic, Nicaragua, Zambia, Peru, Cuba, Uganda, the Bahamas, Cambodia, the United States, especially over the last year with COVID, and so many more places. They're like Pam Stires with pies, just sending them out. Those of you who know who Pam is, you know what I'm saying. Slinging them all over the place when someone is in need of a meal and some compassion. In 2017, things really took off for them when Hurricane Maria struck Puerto Rico. Now, some went there and they threw paper towels. Some went there and they started cooking and feeding the hungry. In fact, World Central was having such a a difficult time in getting around FEMA. Federal government always seems to be in the way, offered assistance that, as Andres wrote in his book, We Fed an Island, he said this, quote, "We just started cooking." And in the first month alone, you know what they did in the first month alone? 1 month? They cooked and served over 2 million meals. I did the math on that. Took my shoes off and counted and everything. Okay, I used my calculator. That is 64,516 meals a day. Think about that. Who does that? And these aren't just sandwiches and bologna. These are good meals. That's part of his mission. We just started cooking. Wow, that's inspiring. And they've never stopped. World Central Kitchen has since fed millions in hurricanes and volcano eruptions and government shutdowns and floods and wildfires and even cruise ships. Yes, cruise ships. 50 stuck off the coast of California. Remember that cruise ship? The Grand Princess cruise ship, where COVID cases were so rampant that no one wanted that ship. And all those people, they were just stuck. So people said, you can't feed them, there's no way. Because the ship was in port. But he said, yeah, we'll just use forklifts. We'll cook all this food and we'll lift it up with forklifts. And they put over 50,000 meals on that ship as the weeks went by. In fact, during COVID, right to today, Andres and World Central Kitchen have been doing the work of Jesus in amazing ways. That might not be why they're doing it, but they're doing it, right? They're doing the work of Jesus. While restaurants all over were shutting down or scrambling to remodel for takeout, they converted 8 of his world-famous restaurants in D.C. and New York into soup kitchens to feed the many who were unemployed because of COVID. One final amazing move, they partnered with the Washington Nationals baseball team, whose stadium was shut down. And they had these 2 massive kitchens within that stadium. And they fed thousands out of those kitchens all around the area. And finally, just 2 months ago, World Central Kitchen was awarded a $100 million grant. If I can think of where money needs to go, this is an organization and it needs to go. A $100 million grant which is going to feed potentially billions in new ways. As Andres put it upon being awarded this grant, quote, "World Central Kitchen was born from the simple idea that food has the power to create a better world. A plate of food is a plate of hope. It's the fastest way to rebuild lives and communities. This reward itself cannot feed the world on its own, but it is the start of a new chapter. It will allow us to think beyond the next hurricane to the bigger challenges we face." That's good, isn't it? I love this organization. I love this compassion and this creativity. I find it so inspiring, and I find it as the essence of what is good with the world and a perfect thing to lift up in a month of thankfulness and gratitude. Thank God for people willing to look beyond their own desires into the pain of the world like Jesus did so long ago. And thank God for those working to extend the table farther and farther out so there's always room for more people. Or as the chef says, quote, "We need to make sure that we are building walls that are shorter and tables that are longer." I'll drink to that any day. Going back to Jesus feeding the multitudes on the hillside or in his countless other dining experiences with all sorts of people or the ritual that we'll partake of in just a bit, it's easy to see that the hallmark of Jesus' ministry was one that revolved fully around food. He had a food ministry. He had a theology of food. He knew the basic necessities of food and the scarcity of food, and he knew the value of a good conversation around food or a community gathering with food. That's why those stories are all over the Gospels. And that's why I'm so happy to see what is happening around here at Faith UCC with food. Something's happening here. It's pretty amazing. I mean, we had our first gathering the other night with Annie at a concert, and people were finally, for the first time here, coming together around food, sharing food and wine after our forced sabbatical. Geez, that was great. And we serve food at HEP every Wednesday afternoon to folks in housing transition. And we've started up hospitality again. So I hope you'll enjoy some after worship hospitality today. and get to know each other again. It happens around food. We collected over 300 pounds of food last week for Dunedin Cares to add to the thousands of other pounds donated in cash and food. You wrote over 50 letters, I think it was almost 60, to your elected officials about kids who are hungry. Our letters are bouncing around the halls of Congress right now, your letters, for food security for kids. And looking forward, with this theme of food, we're going to build a beautiful food caregiving ministry as a part of our hospitality ministry for this coming year, sharing meals in difficult times. I hope many of you will choose to be a part of it. Someone here recently that had a meal dropped off to them said, "No one's ever done that for me before. No one's ever done that for me before." And it felt so good. We're looking at starting a community garden, speaking of food, to share fresh food with those who only so often get processed food. And now today, after some 16 months without sharing and communing together, my friends, we'll do so at the conclusion of our service in just a bit. And in the process of all of this, like for Jesus, like for Chef Jose, our table, our table, will continue to get longer and longer and wider, and feeding the world around us will lead the way. And that's not just good. That's great. That's great. I wish you all a blessed month of goodness and gratitude. I hope you enjoy these stories this month and are inspired to continue to write your own story of greatness. And I can't wait to tell you about 3D printed houses. Amen. Wow. Wow. It's my Owen Wilson. Wow. So you know who Owen Wilson is. So we're going to come to our time of communion together. We're going to do a little different than it generally is. I know some of you, this is a very important ritual. For others, it might not be so. So we're going to enter this as you would like to enter this today. We're going to have a communion litany, and then we're going to sing our song of peace. Let there be peace on earth, and then you could even come up during that song. I'm going to move down to the table. If you're interested in communion, come down forward during the song or after the song. As soon as that ends, Carolyn will be playing some gentle music. So we'll just be here as long as make sure everyone that wants to be fed is fed. That's kind of the theme of the day. So some instructions, just come up when you're ready, maybe during that song again or after it. And we have gluten-free here in the smaller tray, and bread over there, and juice in the tray here. All welcome. Communion is a moment, no matter what you hear out there about it, it's someone can do communion, someone can't do communion. Everyone should participate in communion. It's a shared meal that we do together. So at this table, it should always be all or always welcome. This is a wide table. I wonder if you'll join me in our communion invitation, our litany. We come together at this table of remembrance with all our differences, with all the various stories that we have to tell. Our differences make us stronger when we realize that the thing we share is that we experience God, the essence of life, the spirit of mystery somewhere in our lives and in our encounters with and in the world. Please join me.
In gratitude, remember the Spirit of Jesus, his words, his deeds, his pathway to living. In gratitude, prepare and we will share our experiences of the wonders of our world. In gratitude, we remember those who deserve our compassion and help, and the creative energy of God, which compels that compassion.
May this gratitude extend to action to make the world a better place to live, action to help our neighbors as well as strangers, action to bring into consciousness the spirit of life, the hope of peace, and the source of all.
Let us share this bread and this fruit of the earth as we share the fruit of the Spirit, as Jesus shared bread and fruits with his disciples and friends.
Today we come forward for communion in this sacred place, or we do so at home where we are. We do so remembering how Jesus ate with his friends many times, and they would eat and they would talk often, asking questions and wondering about God. And on the last night together, after their conversation at the table, Jesus, he took bread and he blessed it and he broke it and he shared it with his friends, saying, "Take and eat. This is my body, which is given for you. Do this, remembering me." Then Jesus took a cup of wine, and he gave thanks and passed it to his disciples, saying, "Drink this, all of you. This is the cup of the new covenant of love. Whenever you drink this cup, do so remembering me." I wonder if you'll join me in a moment of more intentional stilling and prayer. Since ancient times, people have gathered together to celebrate the living presence of the Spirit of Christ in their midst, breaking bread together and sharing wine. It's a symbol of love and peace and remembrance. And so we also gather together this day, O God, to remember. As we gather for this feast, lift the veil from our eyes. We may know your presence among us and within us and live as Jesus taught, finding abundance through joyful habits of sharing and generosity and justice and charity and hospitality, and being awake to your presence in all the moments of our lives. In this time, O God, we know so many in our world are in pain and suffering, and we lift them to the mystery of your presence. And we seek the courage to enter the pain of the world and help to bring mercy and compassion and dignity. In this time, O God, we also know many among us that will come to this very table, and so many of those that we know and love are suffering in mind and body or spirit. And we lift them to the mystery of your being, of your presence, and seek the nourishment to be supportive and comforting in all times of need. May your presence, your being, rise up in the hearts of all who suffer so that they may know peace. May your presence envelop each of us, reminding us in the good times, and especially in the not so good times, that you are never farther than the beat of our own hearts. May the rhythm of our voices send a mantra of love and hope into the world as we pray this modern interpretation of that beautiful ancient prayer that Jesus taught us. Will you join me, my friends? Great Creator, who's with us on earth, holy is your name, and hungry who share your bread and your song. Loving God, in whom is heaven, let your will be done, standing up where others are sitting down, and raising our voices when others are silent. You give us our daily bread, in the song of the bird, and the miracle of nature. Forgive us for keeping silent in the face of injustice, and for burying our dreams, for not sharing bread or wine, love the Lamb among us. Keep open the door of justice through fear of resigning ourselves to hunger and injustice. Give us the resolve and solidarity to work for love. When the path is unclear, so we shall have known your kingdom, which is being built forever and ever. Amen. I really like that version of that Lord's Prayer. It's a little lengthy, but it's beautiful. We're going to sing our way out for peace in just a moment here, and then we're going to come forward for communion. If you want to have your communion here, you're more than welcome to. You can spread out, or you can take it outside. If you don't want to take your mask down inside, you can go to the gathering space. You can go outside. It's such a beautiful day. We'll get those doors open, and we can spread communion all over the place. So before we come forward, those of you that would like to, let's rise up in body or spirit. And let's sing our way out of here, as we always do, with our song, Let There Be Peace on Earth, and let it.
That was
Like the feast.
I ran and got it. Because I know what to do. Welcome back.